I was taking graduate courses in parallel and was hoping that I could stay on another year and get my master's degree. But I had a recruiter come from NASA, and he gave a pitch in one line that was very hard to turn down. He said, if you go with me, you make history. If you stay here, you get a master's. So I didn't think there was too much of a choice on that. I decided to go with him and see if I could make some history. So I started training on Apollo, and they wanted me to be in the control center, to be in charge of the lunar modules, propulsion systems, and everything that would run that, and be the expert on that. And they wanted young people in the control center that could stand the stress, could make quick decisions, and could be sharp enough to study all the engineering on it and have it. We had thought that we would have plenty of fuel in the lunar module systems to land on the moon with no problem. We had run thousands of simulations. Well, guess what? There was a word that we had called bingo. Everyone in the control center knew bingo meant abort. And bingo meant you didn't have enough fuel to land. You had to abort and go into orbit around the moon. Well, we got this signal. We started 2 stopwatches, and it was like 2 minutes of fuel left that you could use to hover to land on the moon. We got down then to the 30-second call, which had everybody in the control center very tense. We got down to the 30-second call. Really added to the tension. We got down below the 30-second call. And then finally, Armstrong was able to get past big boulders and land on a smooth spot. But there was a lot of sweating going on in the control center at that time, because the unplanned happens when you do the real thing. Now, I want to tell you there's something written in the moon dust that's special, and that is F-I-R-S-T, first. It's still there after all these years. It means Americans were first. At that time, the United States was down. The Vietnam War had gone on so long and had dragged us down mentally and psychologically. This was a great boost to this country and to the world, that we can do about anything if we set our mind to it. We can be first. We can be first now if we decide. Apollo 13 was a great team effort to get where we did. It took great engineering on every system that we had to squeeze it out to get there. But we had 2 things that are not mentioned in the movie, that were critical things. And that was, my system had a little tiny pressure spike when they were loading down at the Cape. We were worried that perhaps that could indicate something further down the line, be dangerous, and blow a burst of this before we got to the moon, and then we would be blown up because we had no pressure to take out our fuels to the engine. So we wanted to go in and look at it on the way to the moon and see. So we had the astronauts go in and turn on the instrumentation, look at the pressure, and see what it was. Well, the pressure was exactly, perfectly predicted to be where it was, which meant we didn't have a problem. And that was a great relief for us, because we were all prepared to go into the lunar module and to use it, activate it, and actually burn the engines to bring the pressure down. While we're sitting there, the tank over in the service module blew up. our guys happened to be there. Because they're there, they can immediately man their consoles and start working and start transferring power, cooling, and everything we could to the lunar module for the astronauts to live in there and survive. So that was a great break. Normally those people would have been home and nowhere near that. Another thing on Apollo 13 was about the last simulation we had before we went to the moon turned out to be a real problem. They put in something so far out, it's almost impossible to consider, and it was a loss of power on the service module. Well, none of our procedures were built for that. So we tried to roll along with that simulation, and we went about an hour and a half, and it was chaos. So we called it down, we gave up on it, and the management decided that's not a good simulation to have, and we should move on, because it's not realistic anyway. Well, what happened? People went back, and they started thinking about that very thing. What if? And they started doing calculations on the back of the envelope, talking to each other, saying, what if?